So that brings me to another point, pH. So pH is very important in the soil, and if you've studied pH when it relates to trees and tree health, all trees require a different pH for them to eat food properly in the soil, to grow, to push out new growth, to push out new roots each year. That pH is very important, and some require more towards the acid, some require more towards alkaline. But each tree, when they grow from seed and they succeed and they germinate and make a tree, that tree actually creates its own pH, personalized to its own needs as it grows. So it balances itself in the soil. As they get big and older, their demands get higher, which can still result in problems down the road as the tree gets older. But when they grow in a tree farm or in the nursery, they are growing from seed and they are building their own little pH world, their own little environment for themselves that feels good to them. They're healthy, and if they're growing well, that means the pH is pretty correct. So let's bring that tree and pluck it out of the ground in a spading scenario. We're going to take it out of its original home, which has its own pH, and we're going to plop it into a new environment that is sometimes hundreds of miles away, even if it's 10 miles away, 5 miles away, it doesn't matter. The pH is now different. Now that tree goes into shock and it pulls back in. It's trying to preserve its life, and it's not really doing a whole lot. Even if you water it every day, it's still not going to be able to build all of the roots that it wants to heal the damage from being spaded, because it's not living in proper pH home like where it grew up. So that's a shock. Transplant shock is more than just, being moved. It is related to this tree is no longer in a familiar territory. It'd be like, you speaking one language, living in one part of the world, and a helicopter drops you off in another part of the world where you don't speak the language, you're not used to the culture or the food. You're going to have a tough time surviving, at least for a while. The same thing is true for your tree when it comes from the tree farm to your new yard. It's not happy. So that is another thing that kills new trees, sometimes within even a few months, but usually within a year or two. They've given up and they look horrible, and then you call the tree planter or the landscape company and you work out getting a new tree to replace it. But the problem is you're not changing any of the circumstances that made the tree sick in the first place and not want to survive in the first place. So that's another thing that stresses out new trees and makes it so they can't survive. So what is the solution? What's Devlin the tree doctor's solution? Well, if any of you have studied up on what Devlin does, we are a complete nutrition specialist for trees, all trees, but new trees especially need a lot of help. They go into the ground in shock, and they are not getting what they need immediately. The ground around them is not providing anything, because usually it's a new landscaped, dug up, with fill brought in from who knows where, some weird sandy clay, mud, whatever soil that they're using to build up the new grade. Who knows what it has in it for nutrition, if any. The topsoil's brought in, rocks, mulch, all these things. So this tree is just getting beat up bad. So what we do is we immediately give the tree anything it could possibly need. So our nutrition mix is loaded with trace minerals. It's loaded with proper plant-based nitrogen. So it breaks down immediately, and it's 100% available to the tree right out of the gate. You mix water with that food, which is what we do because we deep root feed with a water nutrition mix. That tree is getting relief the second our food touches the roots. So what this does is it tells the tree, okay, I'm going to kick out roots. And that's what you want your baby trees to do, is to push roots out. If they do not push roots out, they are immediately dying. They are not going forward. If they're not moving forward, they're going backwards. That's how it is with a tree, because they have to work really hard all summer long to survive the winter.